record. So I'm here with Ann Kennedy, who is how is the best to describe a very good friend, which I haven't seen for a long time. We wrote a book together. Let's put it this way. She structured me into writing a book with her, which was an interesting experience. We've been speaking at conferences together, and we have had brilliant conversations together about life, the meaning of life, SEO, and everything there between. And thank you for doing this.
You left out the dancing all night.
Yeah, I was actually conscious.
Oh, people still ask me what my favorite city to party in is in the world, and it's always Reykjavik. Although New Orleans is a close second.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
So, what is Ann Kennedy doing today?
I am a venture capitalist.
Okay.
Jillian Musick and I each had successful exits from companies we were involved in, and we said, what do we want to do? And the first thing we said is we want to do something together. Because, by the way, she sends masses of love.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we said we wanted to also, figuring this would be probably our last play, that we wanted to do something to turn around and give a hand up to people starting out. And we had made enough, we had enough resources from our exits that we didn't have to run agencies or software companies anymore, which was wonderful. And so we started Outlines Venture Group, and that was our, you might say, our going to graduate school about how to be an investor. And we have an angel portfolio. Like all angel portfolios, some of it's, a few of them are doing very well, and the rest, they're so early, you never know. But then we decided that we were so frustrated with the angel world and what was going on in the world of venture capital, particularly around women. As you may know, funding for women, and I believe this is worldwide, not just the US, is in the single digits of the amount of venture capital money that's invested. And we thought, well, this isn't good. And then we dug a little deeper, and we discovered that 80%, that's 80% of venture funded companies fail. They're gone. And these are the ones that got the money. So they were good companies. And they still failed. And part of it, as we look deeper into this, is the whole structure of how venture capital works. And since we know nothing of finance, because we came from marketing and software, we said, well, why don't we just figure out a different way to do it? So what we do is we invest in women-led tech companies, and that's only women leaders. We believe in diverse teams. We think that it takes both men and women working together to make things right. And we invest in them at the stage when they have a product that they have perhaps sold to a few people and they need investment to grow. And then the third, and this is a killer piece, instead of taking equity in a company, we use debt financing and debt funding, revenue share, affiliate, all kinds of stuff we used to know back in the day. So on those three legs of the stool, we're going to help build a new economy. And doing so, we believe that this is the way to build sustainable companies and sustainable investing and prosperous communities, which Lord knows the world needs now.
So by using debt, the people that own the company still kind of maintain the control, and the visionary still kind of, and so that actually makes a lot of sense. But why do you think that women have this challenge that you mentioned at the beginning? Why do you think that is?
There are lots of reasons. Some of it just comes down to good old-fashioned subconscious bias. That you see not just in investing, but you see it in all things with women. Why you look at this, half the population of the world, and how many things are women shut out of. Now, some countries are more enlightened. Your country is, the Scandinavian countries have proved to be very enlightened, and we look at them with awe from the US. But the idea is there's that. And also for 50 years, venture capital, which, to give it credit, built the system we know. They built the internet, they built software, they built computers. we know that it's worked, but it was mostly, I'm going to exaggerate, but this isn't far off, mostly 30 white guys who all either went to Stanford or Harvard, and they all talk to each other and they all invest to each other, and it's a very closed loop, and it's very hard to break into. And if the numbers are appalling for women-led companies, the numbers for minority-led companies are even worse.
Okay.
So, and yet minority entrepreneurs start some extraordinary percentage, like 38% of all companies.
Yeah.
And here's another little factoid. The rate of innovation in the US is the lowest it has been in 4 decades. And that's really frightening, especially right now, because innovation and entrepreneurs are what bring us out of recessions. And why has it been low? Because the access to the funding has been so locked up.
Yeah.
So,
I think that one of the things which I noticed, so I moved to Norway 5 years back, 6 years end of this year, and the oil crisis came, and the first thing that the Norwegian government did was actually brilliant. So instead of allowing the brain drain, because there were so many engineers from around the world in Norway working with oil and working in that industry, so instead of having the brain drain, they actually opened up really big funds and said, guys, if you need money to do something, and the way that they do this is that they have a couple of stages. So it's relatively easy to get the first stage, which basically is the research stage. You build something up and you showcase it, and you get a little bit more money, and then it starts to be serious stuff. So it is, and this is electronic, so you can basically just kind of go online and you can apply for it, put everything in there, and just press submit, and then it goes into kind of a process, and it happens quite fast actually. So by doing that, they were able to keep the brain in Norway, and some cool stuff came out of it. And I've met some investors who have said, like, Stockholm, Sweden is saturated, Finland is saturated. The new cool venture hubs for people trying to find something new is actually Oslo, Norway, and Iceland, for that matter, because there's so much happening because of that. So it's actually quite interesting to see how that works from a money point of view.
Indeed. Well, as I say, from where I sit on the other side of the Atlantic, the Nordics look very enlightened.
Yeah, but the people need visionaries like you, and you've gone through a lot of developments. Like you were in PR, weren't you, way back?
Way back, yeah.
Yeah, copy and PR, and then kind of creative. Then you moved into search engine marketing and digital marketing. That's when we met. And then now you're doing this. What happened? Like, tell me a little bit about Ann Kennedy from PR to internet marketing to where you're now.
Oh, well, from the PR to internet marketing it's a great story. I thought I wanted to run a public relations agency in the US. I've been doing it for 30 years, sort of freelance, and I wanted to build an agency. My kids were pretty much grown up, and I thought, okay, let's see if we can raise a company. And this was just in the mid-90s, when there was the internet. And I realized as I looked at it that I thought, okay, public relations, media relations is all about first understanding your customer's audience and then understanding the media. And I understood print, and I understood the television journalism and the radio. I understood all that. That was my background. And I said, okay, here's a new media. How do we work in this? And it became very clear. When I started Beyond Ink was 1998 and 97 actually, but then I reformed it in Maine in 98. It became very clear that the way that you got your third-party endorsement online was in the search engines. And this was even before Google. There wasn't a Google. There was Yahoo and, I don't know, Alta Vista. Do you remember all those? Yeah, because you were in at the beginning too. And so I realized that's what it was. I said, okay, how do we do this? And that was the beginning of the learning process. And so how did I go from that to this? as I said, I came to a point where it was not necessary for me financially to run an agency anymore, and that I could pretty much do what I want. And you know the old joke about agencies, it'd be a great business if it weren't for the clients, you know. That's what we used to say anyway in our company. And so I took the opportunity to, as I said, figure out what Jillian and I were going to do together. We've been traveling the world with you, doing conferences and things. She took her partial exit from Moz about the same time that Helium.com was sold to R. Donnelley for $74 million. And I did not get but a tiny part of that 74 million, but it's enough to get my freedom. And as I said, as we looked around, it took us about a year and a whole lot of sipping wine on the Oregon coast to think up what is it we want to do. And we had dozens of ideas. We were going to build the best predictive software. You know, everybody was really excited about Nate Silver and 538. And I looked at Jillian one day over my glass of wine, and I said, Jillian, I hate development. And she looked at me and she said, well, if you don't like development, I'm not doing it. No. And so, and meanwhile, companies were, because, you know, we have pretty high profiles. We have pretty good brands, Jillian and I. And companies were asking us if we would advise them in return for shares. So we said yes. And so I was visiting one company in the Bay Area that is still in our portfolio and is doing rather well. And I was invited to lunch, and I thought, okay, that's cool. Turned out I was the lunch entertainment. I'd just been to PubCon, and they wanted me to tell them everything I could about what they needed to know about SEO over lunch. Yeah. And I did my best, gave them the top side. This would have been, I don't know, about 2013 or so. So things were a little different in SEO. 2012. And so after they finished, there's four guys sitting around the table, and they said, wow, you know, there was the CTO said, Ann, thank you for being so generous with your time. And I said, no. You got it all backwards. Yeah. I own a piece of you. Small, but I own a piece of you. Your success is my success. Now go out and make me some money. Yeah, exactly. And they all looked at me, wow, you know, and then as I walked out, I texted Jillian, I said, I think we have a business model. And that was our business model for the first 5 years of Outlines Venture Group. And then as I said, what led us into raising a fund was we decided we wanted to have more access to more capital and also have more influence in the field. Yeah. So that's how I got to be here. It amazes me. It seems a perfectly straight line to me. But,
but it's a brilliant. It's a straight line with a couple of nuances on the way, maybe.
Well, it's just whenever something interesting came along, I said, okay, let's go do that. You know, that's sort of been my life. You're kind of like that yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. If it comes from you, it's a compliment. Absolutely, yes. Thank you. So one thing which I remember we were speaking about, and I think actually Jillian also, whether one of the stories came from her and one of them came from you, was talking about my kids and being away, and some either of you spoke about the gift monster, and then either of you told me the story about the way that you bought 2 books and took one of them with you on a journey, and then you read the book through the phone okay. And the gift monster was that, like, if you keep bringing gifts to your kids, they'll just ask for more. So I changed the approach and started bringing cultural stuff. Like when I was in Nigeria, I bought boo-boos. In Iran, I bought the national football or the soccer jersey, and so we were out when my kids were playing football. Everybody was wearing Barcelona or Manchester United. They were wearing the Iranian.
That'll start a fight.
Yeah, but it actually came out. It caused interest, and then the boo-boo was interesting because we all put our boo-boos on, and then we found some Nigerian recipes and cooked some food, and then we were all wearing boo-boos and eating Nigerian food. So that changed from being Barbie dolls and stuff to being that, and that actually helped a lot. And the book thing was brilliant. buying a set of books, giving one to your kids and taking one with you, and then read through the phone and they have the same book. So you talk about the images that you're seeing and so on. That's something
And
that
now we can do it on FaceTime.
exactly. And that's actually interesting also, because now you're using technology like this one. We're talking together, haven't seen each other for a long time. We just had a big family powwow where we had our relatives in the U.S. And then the people here in Norway. We're scattered around the world, in Germany, in Denmark, Sweden, and then we just all came over and said hi and spoke. And that's actually brilliant. How this is how technology is working.
I think that this crisis that has sent us all home and made us dependent on the technology, it has drop kicked us into the 21st century. There is simply no way anybody can stand back and say, I don't like the internet anymore. I don't see what good this is, or I don't want to be online, because, and I've been waiting for, not for a pandemic, but I've been waiting for the world to catch up with what we all knew about how brilliant this technology is. You're right. I talk to people or like you, but also family members all over the country. I talk to my family a mile down the road because I can't go see them because we're all sequestered here. But it is, we've been suddenly forced by this event to take full advantage of what this can do. And I think there's nothing but good coming out of that.
I had a talk with a friend of mine, a guy called Nick Wilston from similar to what we're talking about now. And he was saying that now companies were forced to think, instead of thinking digital first, they were just thinking digital only, because basically it just changes everything. And the companies that didn't have a proper infrastructure in place pre-COVID would have to do that after, because they understand that those that actually had the infrastructure, like the e-commerce companies, people with proper e-commerce infrastructure, actually are the ones who would come out of this quite well. But you're Philadelphia. So who lives in Philadelphia? So you got 3 boys.
Yeah. Well, my youngest boy is now 40, so it's hard to call them boys anymore. Gene, you know Gene. He's the one that actually said we should write the book. You might remember that in your conference room back in Reykjavik. After 22 years of living in Oregon and telling me I love it, I'm never leaving, Comcast came knocking on the door and made him an offer at the headquarters that he just felt he really needed to take. So in 2017, we ripped off the Band-Aid and we all came here. I said, you're not going without me. So I'm what's known as a trailing granny. It's a thing all over the country. So I followed them. I don't live with them. I live near them. And it's been interesting. I've lived all over the country and the world, as you know, but Philadelphia, this part of the Eastern Seaboard I had not lived on. And Philadelphia, it was, so many things were invented here. Not least our government, but the saws, corn grinding machine was invented by a woman in 1712. It's the name of our fund, the Sibylla Masters Fund. Everywhere I look, as I walk around town, when I could walk around the city, there are plaques on the wall saying, this is the site of the first, and you get to fill in the blank. Department store, film processing lab, skyscraper. I bet you thought the first one of those was somewhere else, but no, it was in Philadelphia. And it's just crazy. So it's a small town of a city, and it's very beautiful. And it's been a lot of fun to be here. I think it's temporary. I'm on a temporary long-term assignment to watch my grandchildren grow up. And after that, I'm going to Key West.
Okay, there you go. So I just Googled it. So just because I had no clue. Philadelphia, so it's between Baltimore and New York. And I didn't. I saw here like Sylvester Stallone triumph run in the film Rocky.
Yep. Yep. That's at the Philadelphia Art Museum. And do you know what? I think more people go and have their picture taken in front of the statue of Rocky that's in front of the Philadelphia Art Museum than actually go in and look at all the paintings. It's a very, very fine museum, but it's a beautifully laid out city. And it is midway between Washington, D.C. and New York, equidistant, which is great because I can get to either place very quick. Couple hours on the train, and that's been very useful for all the connections that we make in business. Also, I have one son in New York now and one in Atlanta, so this is it's altogether easier.
Yeah. So and the one in New York is the one that's has been in New York more or less since.
Yeah, he was in Hollywood for 8 years.
Okay, so the one who was in New York, did that guy move down to Atlanta then?
Atlanta, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, he has 2 sons now. I have 3 sons and 5 grandsons.
Oh, there you go.
You got all the girls, friend.
I know. Yeah.
I did not, except how is Hawk?
He's great. Yeah, man. I have 2 grandkids, so he's good. And
awesome.
he's in Iceland.
It's a great gig, isn't it?
It's a brilliant gig. The worst thing is, of course, I can't see them enough. I don't see them enough. But they are coming here to visit us this summer, and we're going to Iceland this summer also. So we're going to try to spend time with them as we can. But it's challenging, and one of the things that you don't realize, because Icelanders are such virgins when it comes to what you described, because the country basically, like, where are you going to move? You move to Akureyri, which basically is 3 hours away, 4 hours away from Reykjavik, or if you go furthest away, you can still drive it there in 8 hours.
Yep.
So all the way to the other side of the country, and so there's like everybody's there, but like in your case, like Atlanta, where so like it's like a massive, it's a continent, so it's a massive thing. And it's the same with Norway. Norway is if you flip Norway, the most northern tip of it will hit Rome or something, or Austria or whatever, because it's just a long country. So you don't have that. Icelanders don't have this, so we're learning. Global community.
Expand your horizons. You don't know this, but I learned to ski in Lillehammer.
There you go.
When I was 10 years old, long before Olympics, when it was just a sleepy little snowy village with a rope tow.
Okay. Why there?
We were living in England at the time, and during the Christmas break, we all went to Lillehammer to a tourist home for Christmas. Spent a month there.
Nice. We go skiing there quite a lot. I love it being there. It's brilliant.
Yeah, beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place, and there's great slopes. And things have probably changed a lot since you were there last.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you and Jillian, you have this fund. What is what in the current situation? And you spoke about innovation never being so or entrepreneurship being at its lowest for 40 years in the US. What do you want to see to change that? What do you want to
well, if you can, I'd like to see more money go into companies that are sustainable. If you consider that and we're talking about venture funded companies rather than angel funding, which is its own thing. It's good for startups. It's usually people investing their own money. Venture funding is we play with other people's money, is how I put it. And if you consider that 80% of all venture funded companies fail, they die. And that means all the money that was put in them is wasted. And then at the other end of it, less than 4% have successful exits. And the ones in the middle they keep bumping along, but they never return any value to their investors. So that's a huge waste of money. And it also suppresses entrepreneurship because people can't get access to it, or they start a company and it fails. And that's why we're really excited about using a debt funding model, which encourages entrepreneurs to build profitable companies so they can pay their debt, and takes the focus off building a big valuation for that ultimate, eventual 10x, 100x sale, which mostly doesn't happen, less than 40% of the time. And so the other thing to know about venture capital is more than half, 51% of venture capital firms never return any money to their investors. So that's just a whole lot of money going down the drain.
But
We'd like to change that.
what I'm thinking here is that I recently went through a company in Canada where we started pharmaceutical, let's say that, and a lot of money came into it, and it's still there. It's probably going to be fine, but what is it that makes it so that people invest in companies, whether those are technology companies, pharmaceutical companies, whatever it is? Because if this is the outcome, and people must know this, why are they then still using this model if it is such a big failure?
That's a really good question that we've been asking also. Why is this? I think part of it is, again, it's a very closed loop system.
Yeah.
And if you look closely at how the big venture fund companies, Silicon Valley companies, operate, they have, the numbers go like this. Companies take 2% out per year as fees, the venture companies, every year. And so if they do that for 10 years before there's an exit, that's 20% right there off the top they can't invest. What we found out to our alarm that most people don't tell you is there's another 5% that they take to run their companies, you know, their offices and their analysts and all that sort of stuff. So that's another 50%. So now you're down to 70% is being spent on the venture companies, not on the investments of the investors' money. And that 30%, in order to cover all those costs and pay back that other 70% to their investors, they have to make the 10 to 100x exits. They have to have unicorns. So they have to kill off all the other companies so they can focus on the unicorns. Why do people invest this way? I don't know.
This is really short-term thinking, though. Is it like this is plagued?
Yes, but so is the stock market.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody told me, because I'm relatively novice when it comes to this, but I've been learning, and you learn something new every day. I hope that will be until I pop out of this world. Is that the stock exchange is driven by what? Fear and greed, and those are the two drivers basically. It's nothing else. It's if you either want a lot of money or you're afraid to lose a lot of money, and therefore you react.
There is also a very big element of gamble in it.
Okay.
You know,
well, as in going to Atlanta and throwing money into the casinos, you put them on the stock market and you gamble with it there.
Yeah, and like so many other things, what people who have sustainable portfolios have diversified portfolios. They don't go gambling over the next hot thing. And my own financial advisor said to me not long ago, every time there has been a big recession, and we've had a recession every 5 years in the US, and we recover. That's why I'm optimistic about what's coming here, even though things are uncertain. But he said before that, he hears his customers and other advisors saying, everything's going up so fast. Maybe we should buy more. What are we missing? You know, that FOMO thing. And he said, and within 2 years of my hearing that, there is a recession. And so I think that it's bubbles that burst. And I think as far as the investing in, well, there's so many elements to investing in entrepreneurship. One of it, it's kind of cool. You know, you can say, I'm an angel investor, I'm a venture capitalist. But there's a name we have for some of the angels. It's Romeos, which is rich old men eating out. Because they never make any money, but they do have a nice time, you know. So maybe that's how people want to spend their money. I'm quite passionate now that the world, and I see this when I travel to places like Croatia and Macedonia, where Jillian and I were in 2018 on behalf of the US State Department. But I see everywhere we need to create sustainable economies in countries for prosperity.
Mm.
And it could be argued the rise of nationalism around the world is because of that lack of prosperity.
Mm.
The system that we have had for 100 years worked 50 years ago, but it's not working now. And that's what I feel quite passionate about, changing what I can in my own little world.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to what you were saying about the investment, like you hear these stories, like through every process that I've had to go through when I get any investment in any of my companies, whether I come in, any of the companies that I'm involved in, is that you hear these kind of massive stories. People tend to sit down and become an echo chamber of how they're going to make 10 times, 100 times, whatever it is that they want to, and they just become an echo chamber of themselves, and they just basically talk and talk and talk, and then suddenly something goes crazy and they lose it, and then there's a recession, and that's the blame. But it kind of goes into, and you can see that now within, probably this is a really good way of understanding how this works, is that so many companies don't have any funds in their bank accounts. They are financed literally month to month in many cases, and those are the companies that are clean out the first. The ones that actually have something in the bank account, that have a steady or have a solid background or a foundation. Those are the ones that survive, and they are the ones that then come strong out of it. I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm just
I think you're right, and you could see a good example in the banks, the big banks here in the U.S. They have so far they're able to weather this and provide the loans that we need to get companies to keep people paid. You know, we've had a lot of things passed by the government the last 2 weeks to try and protect people's income. But when the 2008 recession,
yeah,
that was a problem with the banks.
yeah,
And in the 10 years since then, the effort has been to make the banks more solid, to have reserves. And this problem, this crisis, is not caused by the banks,
yeah.
but had our banks not been as well supplied as they are, I can't imagine the devastation that it would be.
Imagine getting this and 2008 at the same time. That would have
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a credit to all of the efforts made by the federal government in the US, and I don't know what happened in other countries, but in the US at least, to insist that the banks behave more responsibly with money, which is
positive.
Yeah.
And it goes to us also as just human beings, in the way that we run our own kind of lives, is to be responsible in what we do.
Yeah.
How I mean, what is the best way for those who are interested to reach out to you guys? How do they?
Well, I have a couple ways they can reach us, and also then I have a secret announcement I'm going to premiere right here with you. Our website for the fund is masters.vc, and our email and our connection is all over there. It also explains why we do what we do. Jillian and I also still have our own site, which is outlinesventure.com, and you can ping us through either one, or email us, Ann@outlinesventure.com or Ann@masters.vc. I get them all. So my big news is this. As you probably are aware, Jillian and I have been doing a podcast called CEO Coach, and it's been on for 11 years. Well, next month, we're launching a new one. The CEO Coach will always be available in the archives at Webmaster Radio, but we're launching a new one on what is now WMR.FM called VC Confidential. And we're going to tell everything we've learned so that people can understand more about how this works. What do you think?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, VC
Brilliant.
Confidential. We launch it in early May.
VC Confidential. And the other one was Masters VC.
Masters.vc is the website for the fund.
So Masters.vc. I'm just going to quickly pull it up here. Masters.vc. What does VC stand for?
Venture capital.
I know, but where did you get that domain ending? Was it just something random stuff?
You must know. You could make up any domain extension you
Yeah, I
want.
know. Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
true.
always been true.
Yeah, that's true.
You could be Kristjan if you want.
Yeah, but who wants to be that? Hold on. I'm just gonna go through this here. Yeah, Morgan Stanley noted 4.4 trillion in missed opportunities by excluding women
Yes,
and minorities.
that's right. And that's globally, and they're just astonishing numbers.
Yeah.
We're not the first people to say, think what could happen if we let the other half of the world really realize their full potential.
Yeah.
But we're repeating it as often as we can.
Yeah. I'm lucky when it comes to that I'm reminded. On the board of directors at my home, I'm on the minority there.
Minority vote.
I have no vote. I have an honorary position.
At least you have diversity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's brilliant. So just go on the masters.vc, and then you are launching a new blog, podcast.
Yep.
Will the focus change within the podcast, or is that?
Yes. The focus of CEO Coach was to answer all the questions that we wished we'd had somebody to answer for us about managing a startup. Everything you needed to know. The more we got involved as investors, the more we began to understand that we really wanted to talk about money, because that is one of the core things that everybody that we've ever talked to in startup companies is asking, how do I get money? Where do I get money? So the focus of the VC Confidential will be to surface a lot of things that are quite mysterious about venture capital, such as some of the statistics I was just talking about. That's not generally known. And also to provide clear answers as to how people, women and men, can find the capital they need to grow their businesses and become prosperous. So it's a different focus, because the focus will be on venture capital in particular.
Yeah. Cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's been great catching up. And let's do this again, but then maybe offline. We need to do this regularly. Take like a quarterly, hey Anne, hey Kristjan kind of talk.
I would love that. And would you remember me to your beautiful wife and daughters?
I'll send them the best.
Who have no idea who I am anymore. They're daughters. They were so little.
Yeah. But I still, where is it? I think I still have a signed copy. Where is it? That's like one of the last ones I have. It's that.
Yeah, me too.
And what I love about it is that so it's signed. So this book is actually signed by you and me. Where is it? Oh, there, come on. Yeah. Okay. To Ula, who is with me here, the business partner, and you can see like you can't see it because I have this background, but he has a lot of books by famous people, or famous people by people who have written marketing books, and he has a specific place for our book. He says to me, maybe he's just saying it to me, I don't know.
Do you know that no one has attempted to write another book about it?
Yeah.
And I know why, because it was hard.
It was hard, yeah. And I still go regularly through the social media, because we had maybe 60% of the social media, global social media book out there. And we did distribute, or I did distribute with your allowance, some of the chapters we had, but we never kind of published it officially, the global social media. When I read through that book and actually through this book and glance at it, it's like there's still stuff there which is important. The moral of the story is still really there. It's important. The facts of what is not necessarily the correct one, are not necessarily the right search engines and how they're functioning and so on. But the moral of the story of the importance of culture and diversity and how you use that when it comes to marketing is still in the book. Still
that was by design.
Yes.
I didn't want us to have to rewrite it every year as the output changed, as the tactics changed. I wanted to have a book that was evergreen.
It's still there. Brilliant. Yeah, and I'm very happy that you pulled me into this project. That was actually brilliant. And thank you. And I'll ping you afterwards. I'll send you this video. You can review it, and then I'll throw it out on my YouTube channel. Until then, thanks for doing this, and great seeing you again.
Thank you for contacting me. This has been wonderful.
See where it goes. Hold on. And